Hello and welcome back, all five of you. My name is Pilot Merchant, and have you ever seen a movie so drastically bombarded with creativity that you really can't compare it to anything else? Well, if you have, then more than likely you will completely understand how I felt while watching the 2006 movie Night at the Museum. And now for the 5 or 6 of you that have watched my videos in the past will probably realize by now that this is a bit of a out of character intro for me. I usually will spend this time cracking silly jokes or comparing the movie to different things or setting up a way to really explain the movie, but I don't really know how to describe it or compare it to anything because I've never seen anything like this movie before. Name me one other movie that can compete with meeting Teddy Roosevelt, being chased by Attila the Hun, speaking to an Easter Island statue and being peed on by a monkey, all in a 5-minute sequence of events. So before we get into what about this movie has got me so up in arms at the moment, let's just talk a bit about the history of the film, yeah? As I said before, Night at the Museum is a 2006 20th century Fox family comedy that actually exists as an adaptation of Milan Trick's 1993 book with the same name. An interesting fun fact for you, by the way, is that in the original version of the book, the lead character is actually named Hector, but for some reason in the movie they renamed him to Larry. Mr. Trink, rather than trying to revert this, actually just decided to re-release the book with the guard being named Larry for the sake of confusion. So if you grew up with the book and in your version he is named Hector, then I am sorry for the confusion you are about to experience. Getting back on track though, of course, like all 20th century Fox movies from the early to mid 2000s, the cast list is filled with big and memorable names. You've got Ben Stiller, Robin Williams, Ricky Gervais, Brad Garrett, and showing up for his second appearance in 1 month on my channel, Owen Wilson.
Shoot you in your dang eye.
But what is this movie about? Well, the story follows Larry Daley, a simple man who has a simple dream of wanting to do something big and important with his life. Unfortunately for Mr. Daley, however, this task proves to be rather impossible for him, seeing how he has nearly no discernible skills whatsoever. When we meet Larry, he lets us know that he's been fired from multiple jobs, is facing eviction, has a horrible resume, and is slowly starting to feel his relationship with his son Nick fading away as Nick loses respect for his dad more and more. Feeling an absolute extreme amount of pressure from the position that life has placed him in, Larry decides to get a job at the Museum of Natural History as a night guard in a last-ditch attempt to both win back the respect of his son and to get his life back together. Little does Larry know, however, the job isn't going to be quite as easy as he originally thought it would, because it turns out that everything in the museum comes to life when the clock strikes 10 PM. So if that sounds interesting to you, then make sure to put on your uniform and also check if your torch is fully charged, because it's time to get into The Night at the Museum. The film opens up with a credit sequence that pretty much takes us on a short tour of the museum while whimsical, non-genre bound music plays in the background. After our peek into the past, we then get to meet Larry Daley, who almost gets run over as soon as we see him. If you can't tell from that one small interaction, Larry isn't exactly having the best of days. He almost gets run down, his attempt to commit parking meter fraud ends with his car getting booted, and to top that all off, it turns out that his son Nick forgot to tell Larry that it was career day at school, so he didn't need his dad to come pick him up. Despite this though, Larry is in no rush to give up on seeing his son today, so he heads over to his ex-wife Erica's house to do just that. While he's there, we learn that Larry pretty much has no job, and to make things even better, he just got evicted from his apartment.
No, I didn't get evicted yet. It's like a...
Okay, my mistake. He's about to get evicted. Learning this, Erica unsurprisingly isn't exactly comfortable with Nick staying with Larry for the time being, considering the fact that at any given moment, Larry could be homeless. That conversation has to be saved for later, however, because we then jump over to Larry cheering Nick on at a hockey game. Nick ends up playing about as well as you'd expect him to, but his dad remains supportive anyways on the walk home when he tells Nicky that he thinks he could go pro one day. Nick, however, says that when he grows up, he wants to be
a bond trader.
Which, inconveniently enough for Larry, is exactly the job that Erica's fiancé Ben has. Larry, being the unemployed almost homeless man he is, decides to do his fatherly duty and lectures his son about the importance of not having a consistent income and also not having a fallback job just in case that whole NHL thing doesn't quite work out. Nick, though, is a bit smarter than his dad and straight up asks him why he doesn't just accept the fact that he's not special and then tells him to get a job. Larry, not really knowing what to say, just kinda goes quiet and walks his kid back to his mom's house. The next day, Larry goes off to a temp agency to see if he can't get a job interview somewhere, which of course leads him to being sent over to the museum to apply for a nighttime security position. Which, as someone who has worked nighttime security in the past can tell you, it's not the most glamorous job on earth, but at least you get to nap. Anyways though, Larry enters the museum and walks up to the Doc Tints?
I'm Rebecca. Hapman, I'm a docent here.
Yeah, whatever that is, and starts to talk to her about how he's there for a job interview. This soon gets interrupted by my mum's favourite line of the movie.
Ooh, Daddy, it's a big Tyrannosaurus thing. Can I touch his leg? No!
Getting back on track, however, Larry makes his way over to the security office where he meets an old man by the name of Cecil who very much reminds me of the Joker. After a rather informal interview with Cecil and two other old men named Reginald and Gus,
I once went 9 rounds with John L. Sullivan.
You never fought John L. Sullivan in your life.
yes, this is part of the interview, Larry is given the position, though like good old Mr. Fox, it seems to be for all the wrong reasons. There's no time to think on that though, because now it's time to start training, and after Cecil gives Larry a tour and some advice, he instructs him to come back the next day for his first night of work. Larry of course comes back the next night, but before his shift can truly get started, the three old men decide to say their friendly goodbyes.
I ought to punch you in the nose, hopscotch.
Okay, everyone but Gus says goodbye. Before the three head out, Cecil hands Larry an instruction manual that Larry doesn't even bother to read. Once by himself, Larry decides to do what all of us third shifters do 99% of the time and slack off for the first part of our shift. Larry ends up falling asleep at some point, but when he comes to and starts to actually do his job, he realizes that somehow an entire Tyrannosaurus Rex has gone missing. It's alright though, because it turns out that our T-Rex friend just wanted to get himself a drink of water. Oh, sorry mate, just need to wet me whistle. For other obvious reasons, Larry is both absolutely petrified and terribly confused about why there's a dead dino chasing him around the building and decides to go back to his kiosk and peruse that instruction manual that was left with him. As uncommon as the situation seems to be on the surface, it turns out that Cecil actually left some pretty solid advice for how to handle Rexy. That advice being...
Number 1, throw the bone.
essentially treat him like a dog. So after Larry and his new best friend play a bit of fetch, he then goes off on his own to tour the museum, undoubtedly noticing how literally everything that resembles a being that was alive at some point has come to life itself. His cozy, slow-paced tour gets interrupted, however, when Larry literally starts to get chased by a group of resurrected Huns. Thanks to a conveniently placed elevator though, Larry manages to escape, and after meeting Sacagawea and also going through an extremely realistic Civil War reenactment, Larry makes his way over to the Safari room to complete instruction number 2, which is...
Lock up the lions or they'll eat you.
The Lair manages to make his way over to the other side of the room and shut the door. Unbeknownst to him, a monkey from the exhibit named Dexter managed to swipe the keys while Larry was bolting through. Luckily though, Dexter seems like a rather reasonable biped and decides to exchange the keys for a love bite on Larry's nose and the opportunity to pee on his clothes. Also, if you were looking forward to hearing more of the instructions for the night, I apologise, but Dexter apparently also serves as the museum's residential paper shredder. After once and for all giving up on getting the instructions back, Larry goes off to have a sit down at a seemingly unoccupied part of the museum. But of course, like all rooms in this crazy place, this one too is filled with living people statues, and I mean lots of them. Larry only realizes this though after being attacked by tiny Mayans. In response to this, he then decides to bestow us with his one swear word of the movie. You get one per PG movie after all. Soon after this, the Mayans tie up Larry's legs, causing him to stumble into the Old West, where Owen Wilson and friends start to tie down Larry's torso because apparently all the tiny people are tired of being locked up in their displays and are planning to take their troubles out on the poor old Larry. By running him over with a train, of course! Conveniently for Larry though, the train is a simple toy train and doesn't do any damage whatsoever, but like I asked about the conductor of the Polar Express, what if it did? This would be a very different movie. Larry manages to break all of his binds before he can go. He now has to face the full force of the Roman legion, which is surprisingly more effective than both the Mayans and the Cowboys' efforts. Don't worry though, because Teddy Roosevelt of course comes out of nowhere to save Larry from the attack of the miniatures. After getting to said safety, Larry then asks the 26th President of the United States the very logical question,
Isn't everything in this museum supposed to be, dead?
you see, the reason that everything here is coming to life every night of the year is because of this golden glowing treasure which is called the Tablet of Akhben-Ra. What is it? Why is it special? What happens if you take it to a pet cemetery? Well, Stephen King can answer that last one for you, but the movie doesn't give us any answers about the tablet right away, so we'll have to come back to the subject later. Teddy and Larry talk a little bit more about the job and Larry's job responsibilities, and good old Theodore agrees to help Larry wrap things up for the night since he has literally no idea what he's doing. Thankfully though, the night ends rather smoothly. In the morning when the Three Stooges come to check on Larry and see how he's done, he immediately quits the job and storms outside. Surprisingly however, Nick and Ben came to say hello and see how everything has worked out so far, which inadvertently causes Larry to walk back inside and tell Cecil that he'll give it one more try. Before the security team can really discuss anything more about the job, the director of the museum calls Larry over and demands that he goes with him. The director then takes Larry to the Old West miniature exhibit where we find Jedediah Owen Wilson's character standing guard over the Roman legion General Octavius as he sits captured in a stockade. For other clear reasons, the director thinks Larry was just trying to play some sort of joke and tells him that it's not funny. Eventually, the director leaves Larry alone though, which then gives good old Larry the opportunity to stop and speak to our docent friend Rebecca while she's giving a tour to a class of children. Larry then asks her if she'd like to grab coffee with him, and after they get their Joe, the two start talking about some of the exhibits so Larry can be more well prepared tonight. Skipping ahead through Larry reading up on some historical stuff, Larry shows up for his second night of the job feeling far more ready and confident than the night before, considering he actually kinda knows what to expect now. Cecil and his goons then take one moment to say goodnight and goodbye to Larry because today is their very last day of work before retirement. Little does Larry know, however, that while he's speaking with Cecil and Gus, Reginald is off making molds of the keys because surprise, surprise, the Three Stooges are actually evil. After the trio heads out, Larry starts to prepare for his night by setting up an RC car for Rexy to chase, giving a light to some cavemen and successfully locking up the Mayan miniatures without getting shot by any of their blow darts. Progress though comes to a halt when Larry goes to lock the Roman miniatures up and he spots them trying to break through the wall in an effort to expand. Before Larry gets the opportunity to stop them, however, he starts to hear rather similar sounds coming from the Old West miniatures who turn out to be trying to tunnel through the wall using, get this, miniature dynamite. Seeing no better way to handle the situation, Larry decides to pull both Jedediah and Octavius aside to have a conversation with them about their behaviour, and the conversation actually seems to be somewhat effective somehow, so now Larry has the opportunity to move on with his night. His next job of the night is to lock up the safari area, which of course means another run-in with Dexter. Dex once again tries to pull a fast one by swiping Larry's keys, but little does the small-brained monkey know that big-brain Larry managed to trick him into taking a set of toy keys while he stashed the real ones. Larry then takes a moment to belittle his monkey friend.
Those are baby keys for little baby. So have fun playing with your baby keys, little baby monkey. Maybe tomorrow night I'll bring you a little baby diaper so you can go poo-poo with it. Then I'll change it for you. And then I'll give you a little tickle because you're a cute little baby.
Not necessary, but funny all the same. Larry then heads off once again and runs into Theo spying on Sacagawea through his binoculars. Ignoring that, however, let's just skip over to the part where Larry starts to perform magic tricks for Attila the Hun.
Everybody likes magic. And flowers. People like flowers.
Now, I'm either on shrooms right now, or the writers were on shrooms whenever they made this, but either way, one of us is high. Though the magic worked for the Huns at first, Larry accidentally flashes and Attila of course notices and then instructs his friends to rip Larry apart. Luckily enough though, before the Huns can actually get started, a stampede of animals from the Sapphire Room come barreling out from upstairs and scaring away the Attila the fan club. But now the question is, how did the animals get out when Larry has already locked the Sapphire Room? Well, it's not who you think it is. Unless you think it was Dexter, then it is. It turns out that our good old friend Dexter somehow managed to sneak up and steal the keys while Lawrence was distracted. This then caused a chase to begin, which while it's going, Larry finds the miniatures having a war, Dexter ends up opening a window, and Larry has to extinguish an on-fire caveman. Eventually though, Larry catches up with Dexter, and while the two of them are having a slap fight, one of the cavemen ends up climbing through the now open window and successfully gets outside without Larry knowing. Teddy ends up having to intervene during the fight and manages to get the keys back with a little bit of respect. Larry, knowing that he's tried his hardest tonight, decides to quit before his shift is even over. Well, that is until this bronze guy points out the open window, which then causes Larry to bolt outside to find the caveman. However, it's too little too late for our cave buddy, and he turns into ash swept away by a street cleaner when the sunlight starts to shine on him. This, for reasons unknown to me, enkindles the passion in Larry to give this job one more try, and he decides...
You're fired.
Probably should have saw that coming, to be honest. It's okay though, because Lance ends up talking his boss into giving him one more chance tonight. As great as that is though, Nicky and his friends actually just came into the museum hoping to get a tour from his dad right whenever his boss fires him. So later on into the day, Larry goes to Erica's house because he wants to see his kid. And after a short clarification about Larry's job situation, Larry asks Nick if he'd be interested in coming to work with him. For reasons unknown to me, Nick says yes, though to be fair, he shouldn't be disappointed. And after a short scene where Larry tells Rebecca about how everything in the museum comes to life and she thinking that he's just just making fun of her. Larry sits Nick down at the museum front desk to introduce him to Rexy, but when everything is supposed to come to life, nothing happens at all. Finding this weird for obvious reasons, Larry and Nick go to check on the tablet of Achman Ra, but it turns out that the tablet has gone completely missing. They then go off to look for the tablet and end up finding it along with the Three Stooges stuffing priceless treasures in the museum's loading dock. Nick then grabs the tablet from the guys before they can take it with them, and after a little convincing from Larry, Nick re-engages the tablet by aligning all the square pieces. Larry then tells Nick to run away with the tablet, and while Larry's getting beat by old people, Nick goes off to hide in the Pharaoh's chamber. The Three Stooges eventually catch up and take the tablet back. They also decide to lock Larry and Nick in the chamber, but while walking away, for some reason, they don't decide to disengage the tablet, thus allowing Teddy to ride by and give an inspirational speech to discourage Larry to find a way to win. As Larry sits looking around the room for something to help them escape, he remembers that the Pharaoh has also come back to life and may be willing to help them if they were to free him. Which coincidentally is exactly what happened. So after Larry and co escape the chamber and also settle things with Attila the Hun, Larry has a bit of a rally the troops speech where he simultaneously gains the respect of everyone and also makes them aware of the theft and process. He then delegates specific tasks for everyone to do. The Civil War fellas are instructed to stop Gus, Columbus and the Cavemen are sent to stop Reginald, and Jed and Octavius are sent to sabotage the getaway vehicle. But how would two tiny generals sabotage a vehicle, you're asking? Some time passes and Larry decides to check in with his friends to see their progress, and wouldn't you know it, 2 of the 3 have been captured. It's when he goes to check on the fan, however, that he finds that seemingly Cecil has gotten away. Deciding that he could use a tracker, he decides to break Sacagawea out of her glass gel and ask her to help out. She agrees and goes outside to assist.
He went east, but he lost control and crashed.
You're amazing. How can you tell that?
Larry, are you genuinely that blind, mate? It turns out though, the Cecil went back into the museum to steal a wagon since his van no longer worked. This then leads to an epic chase through Central Park where Larry is riding on a horse and Jed and Octavius are leading Rexy around an RC car, and man, this is just the coolest fever dream I've ever seen. But like all good things, this too comes to a close when Larry gets Cecil's horse to stop running by yelling a secret word and then handing him over to Attila for safekeeping.
And no limericking, okay? Mikaka?
With the help of Achman Ra, Larry manages to get everyone back to the museum in one piece, while also coincidentally proving to Rebecca that he wasn't making fun of her when he said that the museum literally came to life. And the next morning, Larry's in the director's office being asked why there are multiple news articles about finding dinosaur prints, proof of mammoths, and also a video of the cavemen lighting a fire. At first, the director is ready to fire Lawrence, but ends up changing his mind when he realizes that the articles have actually brought a lot of positive attention and new life to the museum. The movie then closes out after Larry attends Nick's career day by, you guessed it, ending the movie with a dance sequence, because there was no other way to end a movie in the 2000s. Now, if you haven't seen my videos in the past, I do like to give a rewatchability rating for the movie after I'm done with the story breakdown, and the rating is based off of how rewatchable it is to me. But the movie is definitely a 4 out of 5, which essentially what that means for me is that if it happened to be on, I would more than likely and sit down and watch some of it. But I honestly couldn't see myself going out of my way to turn this movie back on. Don't get me wrong, the movie has tons and tons and tons of charm, and it has a really, really decent message. Don't give up on your dreams. If you want to do something with your life, do it. And I think the biggest message that it's really leaving behind is be patient, because whatever you are meant to do in life, whatever it is that'll make you become the best you that you can be, will take time to get there. And that's just something to remember, because typically whenever it comes to careers that we want to do, things that we want to do, before we even knew that we wanted to do them, we didn't even consider wanting to do it. If I were to say that I wanted to do YouTube all of my life, or be an actor all of my life, or a writer all of my life, I mean, it's not necessarily true. I didn't know that I wanted to do this until I started doing it, and I got addicted to it. This is just something that fell into my lap. And that's what the movie is really trying to accomplish at the end of the day, is it's trying to express to you through a funny, nonsensical, fever dream-esque, really, 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 really cool concept of everything coming to life in a museum at 10 p.m. at night. It's trying to express desperately that we all have the ability to be the the best version of ourselves. To me, that's just a really, really important message, and I think that the movie very adequately expresses that message through its comedy, through its cinematography, and through the amazing skills of all of the actors in this film. And that's going to be it from me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then please like this video. If you have any comments, then just leave them, down in the comment section, and I should be able to get back to you. And if you want to see more from me, please consider subscribing, because I make a video like this, a movie review, a story breakdown, whatever you want to call it. I make one of these videos at least once a month, so there will be plenty more to come in the future. But like I said, thank you so much for watching, and just know that you are important and that you matter. I'm gonna go to bed because I just got home from work an hour ago, and I work overnight.